Enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. On the day my elder sister was granted the title of Crown Princess, I was carried into the palace in a small sedan chair, becoming a concubine of the old emperor. Two sisters from one family, one with boundless prospects, glory and splendor, the other merely a nameless concubine in the rear palace, our fates separated like heaven and earth. The night before entering the palace, Lady Margaret showed kindness toward me for the first time, saying, "The deep palace is fraught with danger on all sides. Elder sister, you've been weak and sickly since childhood. Entering the palace, wouldn't you just suffer to death?" My eldest brother sneered coldly. "She's merely a secondary daughter, able to share elder sister's burden is her blessing." Father said not a word, cold and decisive, simply determining my entire life. I sat in the wedding sedan, telling myself I must seek a way to survive. Into the story. After Prince Rong's rebellion was suppressed and annihilated, the palace issued an edict selecting daughters of meritorious officials to enter the palace as consorts. The Shen family was among them. The Shen household had two daughters, one legitimate, one secondary. When the imperial decree arrived at the manor, nearly everyone tacitly agreed to send me into the palace. But the current emperor was already middle-aged, with a grown crown prince beneath his knee. Entering the palace at this time was not glory, but severing the rest of one's life. Naturally I was unwilling, but weak and alone. I could only think of one solution: to seek help from the crown prince. A month ago, following Lady Margaret's orders to go to the temple to pray for elder sister's safety, on the way down the mountain I encountered the crown prince injured and unconscious. I saved him once. A random act of kindness had now become a lifeline to save my life. On the way rushing to the crown prince's manor, I kept feeling grateful for my fortune. But when I saw elder sister personally embracing intimately with the crown prince, all emotions vanished. In the garden corner, I stood frozen watching elder sister's provocative gaze toward me. At her waist hung a jade pendant, the very token the crown prince had left with me. Clearly she had impersonated me. I wanted to rush out and clarify everything, reclaim the token, but was ambushed by maidservants and old women under elder sister's command, gagged and dragged away. That night, elder sister entered my room, her footsteps light, her face full of triumph. She glanced at me contemptuously. "From now on, the one who saved the crown prince's life can only be me. Don't fantasize about things that don't belong to you." Vivian Shen extended her arm, smugly showing me the exquisite bracelet on her wrist. "His Highness gave this to me. His Highness has promised he will soon request His Majesty for a marriage decree. I'm about to become crown princess. As for you, obediently enter the palace. Wait until the day I ascend as empress. I'll grant you the title of Grand Princess Dowager to live out your remaining days." After elder sister left, Lady Margaret arrived. From childhood to adulthood, this was the first time she showed gentleness toward me, holding a handkerchief and shedding tears. "Matters have come to this. You yielding the credit to elder sister is right. Otherwise, the crime of deceiving the sovereign, how could our entire family bear it? As for entering the palace is treacherous and vicious. Elder sister, your body has been weak, year-round dependent on medicine. Her entering the palace would be no different from suffering to death. You at least still have a chance to survive. Moreover, consider the crown prince favoring Vivian as your mother begging you once." My eldest brother came over with displeasure written all over his face. He and Vivian were siblings from the same mother. From childhood he only acknowledged her as his sister. Seeing mother crying, he was extremely angry. Just a lowly secondary daughter. Being able to share the legitimate daughter's burden is your blessing. Moreover, entering the palace as a consort, don't be ungrateful. I laughed coldly. If it's such a good thing, why not send Vivian? Father stood under the eaves, face expressionless. "Disrespecting your elder brother, where have your manners gone? Years ago, when he still favored my mother, he used to hold me in play. Later, disgusted with my mother, he treated me like a stranger. At this moment coldly declared, we've raised you this much, now is the time for you to repay the debt of upbringing. Tomorrow the palace will come to receive you. Prepare yourself." I stared blankly at these blood relatives, among them the one called father. He helped Vivian seize the credit for saving the crown prince, helped her become the noble crown princess. A paternal heart seemingly touching heaven and earth, yet coldly watched another daughter fall into the pit of fire, even personally pushed her down. "Master, Qingjiang is still young, only 18. His Majesty is 20 years older than her. Moreover, the palace is a place that devours people. A few years ago, when they selected beauties to enter, none survived past 2 years. This concubine begs you, don't send her into the palace. A frail woman rushed out and knelt before father. It was my mother, Lady Diana Fang. After giving birth to me, mother's beauty declined, despised by father, enduring over a decade of oppression from Lady Margaret, her body long withered beyond recognition. At this moment, she was kneeling at father's feet. Each thud echoed as her head struck the ground. In just moments her forehead already dripped blood. Yet she seemed not to feel pain at all, continuing to plead. Father's requests remained completely indifferent. Ignorant woman, this matter is settled. How dare you cause trouble? I rushed forward to embrace mother, preventing her from continuing to strike her head. She gripped my hand tightly, tears flowing endlessly, her eyes filled with grievance and helplessness toward herself. Lady Margaret hypocritically approached, wiping tears while pretending concern. Your forehead has split open, it must hurt terribly. King Jiang, quickly help your mother up. She leaned close to my ear, voice so soft only she and I could hear. Obediently replace my daughter entering the palace. Don't fantasize about things that don't belong to you. Think more about your mother. She was using mother's life to threaten me. In the Shen manner, Lady Margaret could cover the sky with one hand. For her to quietly dispose of a concubine mother no one cared about would be as easy as flipping her palm. I held mother's frail body, lips slightly parted but unable to speak. Finally, I could only slowly close my eyes. I agreed to enter the palace. That night, mother held me crying the entire night. I did not cry, because tears could change nothing. I gently wiped mother's tears, using a handkerchief to press against her swollen red eyes. The next morning, servants brought an opulent gown and several exquisite ornaments. Lady Margaret's trusted old woman stood outside the door arrogantly saying, "This morning the manor has received the marriage decree. Master and Madam are in the front hall receiving the noble envoy. Second young miss, once finished with makeup, proceed to the side gate. The wedding sedan has been waiting." Behind her were several robust old women, all people Lady Margaret dispatched to supervise. Well, of course. At this moment the crown prince was in the manor. They feared I would run to expose the truth, feared their scheme would be overturned. Naturally they had to supervise closely. But I never intended to run. I had thought it through. I must enter the palace on behalf of the Shen family to seek glory and honor. Makeup complete, under mother's reluctant gaze, I boarded the sedan entering the palace. At the same time, in the front courtyard they were celebrating Vivian being granted crown princess. Sounds of laughter and conversation bustled through the courtyard walls, echoing everywhere. While at the side gate with no one watching, a small sedan quietly departed. In this palace entry selection, 3 daughters of meritorious officials were chosen, among them the Shen family held the highest status. On the first night entering the palace, His Majesty immediately summoned me to attend the dragon bed. My countenance inherited mother's radiant and enchanting beauty. Years ago father also could not resist such beauty. Now evidently the emperor was the same. His Majesty's gaze revealed amazement, overflowing with affection, at finding a treasured object to his liking. After the cloud and rain, the emperor stroked my hair, voice deep asking, "I clearly remember General Shen's legitimate daughter, isn't that you?" When the emperor accepts daughters of meritorious officials into the palace as reward, the one chosen by default must be legitimate born. Only if there is no suitable legitimate daughter would they select a secondary daughter. And Vivian is the legitimate eldest daughter. I leaned my head against the arm of the most honored one under heaven, softly replying. This concubine and elder sister were originally sisters born of the same mother. This morning when the imperial marriage decree arrived at the manor, elder sister and the crown prince held mutual affection. The family then decided to have this concubine replace elder sister entering the palace. The emperor pondered. Just yesterday the crown prince requested a marriage decree, saying he had found his life-saving benefactor. I didn't expect it to be General Shen's legitimate daughter. His Majesty patted and consoled me. "We've troubled you." I was slightly stunned, then immediately shook my head, nestling into His Majesty's embrace. "Your Majesty is the most honored under heaven. Being able to serve Your Majesty is this concubine's blessing. How dare I speak of being troubled?" These words clearly pleased the emperor greatly. He laughed heartily, with a wave of his hand granting me the title of noble consort Jun. 3 months later I received deep favor, daily dancing and singing for the emperor's entertainment. Years ago mother once stunned the capital with a single performance. I am not her equal, but it's enough to captivate an emperor. 2 months after that, I received joyful news of pregnancy, promoted to imperial concubine Jun, becoming the #1 favored consort in the rear palace. The emperor was already middle-aged, even his youngest princess was over 10 years old, now suddenly becoming a father again. At that moment His Majesty stood stunned, then overjoyed beyond measure. That very night he bestowed rewards upon the imperial physician and palace servants of Yuhua Palace. Rewards flowed like water into my chambers. Such exceptional favor made countless people green with envy, while I was extremely satisfied. One afternoon, when His Majesty came to dine with me, I took the opportunity to request granting Mother an imperial mandate. From then on, Mother was no longer a lowly concubine for Lady Margaret to beat and kill at will. But this was still not enough. I still remember vividly that winter when I was young. Mother, to obtain medicine for my persistent high fever, knelt all night in the snow outside the courtyard before Lady Margaret's quarters. From then her leg remained permanently disabled. That imperial mandate was merely the first step. All these years the Shen family's cruel and vicious treatment of Mother and me, every matter, every incident, I will definitely repay with principal and interest. When I was 1 month pregnant, the Crown Prince married, bringing the Crown Princess into his manor. Amidst the joyous atmosphere throughout the Great Hall, I sat on high with His Majesty, calmly receiving the new couple's ceremonial bows. The Crown Prince was the son of the late Empress. After the Empress passed, His Majesty did not re-establish the Empress position. Before I entered the palace, the consort with highest status was merely a pin rank. Now I carry the dragons here, and am the most favored imperial concubine Jun in the rear palace, the rightful and proper stepmother of the Crown Prince. Today, sitting here receiving the new couple's ceremonial bows, no one dared speak a word against protocol. I smiled leisurely watching Vivian tightly grip her red silk sash, kneeling prostrate at my feet, my eyes filled with satisfaction. The day after, Vivian followed the Crown Prince into the palace to pay respects. In the inner chambers of Yua Palace, she coldly mocked me. Don't be smug too soon. Momentary glory means nothing. Wait until His Highness ascends the throne. There will come a day you must beg me. I lazily reclined against soft cushions, smiling faintly. Tell me, if the Crown Prince learned the one who saved him that year was me, what would happen? Vivian's complexion immediately turned deathly pale, her gaze toward me filled with resentment. I gently ate grapes offered by palace maids, eyes slightly raised. The Crown Princess shows disrespect to this palace, punish her to kneel outside the hall. 10 times. She glared. You dare. I am the Crown Princess. I smiled, raising an eyebrow. This palace is imperial concubine personally bestowed by His Majesty. You must call me Mother Consort. Mother Consort teaching daughter, in law is perfectly justified and proper. Vivian's face darkened, dragged out by several palace maids beneath the corridor, kneeling down to begin copying rules. Near midday, His Majesty led the Crown Prince to Yuhua Palace. The Crown Prince just glimpsed Vivian kneeling, only slightly frowned. Under her expectant gaze, he swept past without a word, directly entering the hall. Vivian's face turned pale as paper. The Crown Prince of course paid no heed whatsoever to her predicament. I coldly watched that scene, slightly sneering with contempt. The Crown Prince of course dared not utter a word. On the contrary, he would become increasingly respectful toward this stepmother. Because as long as he dared show the slightest disrespect toward me, or the child in my womb, his father would immediately teach him a lesson without mercy. An emperor in his twilight years facing a young crown prince full of ambition, how could his thoughts not be complex? His Majesty did not want to admit he was aging, still believing he could hold on firmly for many more years. In such a state of mind, daily having to hear provincials praise the Crown Prince's virtue and talent surpassing others, having to see before his eyes a youthful vigorous man, how could he not feel vexation, not harbor suspicion and worriness? And that is precisely when I can fish in troubled waters. Is your health well today? His Majesty sat beside me asking with concern. After a round of attentive care, His Majesty glanced outside the door, tone seemingly casual, asking, "What is the Crown Princess writing?" Vivian's servant girl saw him as a savior, hurriedly rushed out kneeling, adding fuel to the fire and exaggerating as she recounted this morning's events, especially emphasizing how I deliberately made things difficult. But disappointing master and servant, His Majesty after hearing only lightly nodded. If disrespectful toward stepmother, that is not knowing propriety, troubling Charlotte to teach her properly. The Crown Prince immediately stood and knelt, from movement to words extremely respectful. This son thanks Father Emperor and Mother Consort for lenient and tolerant teaching. Vivian's eyes widened, unable to believe what she had just witnessed. From that day forward, I made her come to Yuhua Palace morning and evening to study propriety. At midday she must arrive in the morning to kneel copying palace rules. When I awoke she would attend my meal, not until sunset could she leave. In just a few days, Vivian had completely withered. After all, from childhood she had been pampered and spoiled, never suffered hardship. That day as usual, she brought a bowl of pregnancy, stabilizing medicine, eyes downcast yet flashing with malicious delight. I reclined on soft cushions, calmly watching her. Today the imperial physician said the pregnancy signs of this palace are stable, no need to drink pregnancy stabilizing medicine anymore. Vivian immediately raised her head, eyes flashing with anxiety, thinking she concealed it well, but actually extremely obvious. Doesn't this medicine need to be drunk daily? If you don't drink today, what if something happens? Just drink it. I stared fixedly at the medicine bowl in her hand, the thick scent of red safflower, fingers lightly stroking my belly, expression hesitant. Is that so? Vivian nodded with certainty. Of course, pregnancy stabilizing medicine must be drunk daily to be effective. Then as you wish. I extended my hand to receive the medicine bowl. Under Vivian's excited watching gaze, I slowly raised it to my lips. Just lightly touching my lips, I suddenly flicked my wrist upward, knocking the medicine bowl to the ground, simultaneously clutching my belly collapsing onto the bed. This palace drank pregnancy, stabilizing medicine brought by the crown princess, then immediately had abdominal pain. Quickly seize her. Summon His Majesty and the imperial physician. Vivian was pressed to the floor by several palace maids and wet nurses, struggling futilely, staring at me with hatred. You clearly never drank it. I slightly curled my lips smiling. That's right, I never drank it, because I fundamentally was never pregnant. I faked the pregnancy. A child that doesn't exist, yet can hook out how many rats in the rear palace and front court, who would dare suspect? Wait until eliminating this pack of lurking wolves. When everything is settled, that will be when I truly carry the dragon's hair. Throughout these months of pregnancy, whether it's screens soaked with musk, fabric sewn into garments, jade hairpins in pouches, these harmful things came endlessly without cease. If my pregnancy were real, I fear it would have been lost long ago. I deliberately tormented Vivian day by day, precisely waiting for her to actively strike, colluding with those in the shadows, so that through her I could trace out all those hiding behind. In the chaos, my skirt was stained red with blood. Anyone looking would think the dragon's hair was lost, including the imperial physician who would soon arrive. All thanks to the medicine pills Mother gave before I entered the palace, a secret medicine from the previous dynasty left by my maternal grandfather when he was alive. Mother told me grandfather was once an imperial physician of the previous dynasty, serving the favored consort of that time, who developed this medicine, originally intending to keep it as a memento, never expecting I would use it. Thinking of Mother, I slightly curved my lips, still clutching my belly as if truly in pain. The imperial physician arrived very quickly, His Majesty also immediately followed. Seeing me lying on the bed, clothes stained with blood, his eyes filled with pity. Imperial physician, quickly examine and treat the imperial concubine. Under the angry gaze of the sovereign, the imperial physician took my pulse. In just a moment there were results. His Majesty heavily closed his eyes, ordering medicine to nourish the body. I leaned in his embrace, dozed off for a while. When I awoke, everything had been determined. In the rear palace, several beauties were no more. Even the inner chambers were completely replaced with new people. His Majesty sat by the bed waiting for me to wake. Seeing me open my eyes, his gaze filled with joy. How is your health? Are you still uncomfortable? I placed my hand on my belly, threw myself into his embrace sobbing. Your Majesty, our dragon's hair is lost. The hand stroking my back froze, then gently continued. There will be more in the future. Now the most important thing is to nourish your body properly. He took a handkerchief gently wiping my face. As for your elder sister, I have confined her in the rear hall. The pregnancy stabilizing medicine laced with red safflower was from Beauty Kong and noble consort and conspired together. Inflicted death. I revealed a venomous gaze. Why? This concubine asks herself, from entering the palace until now she has never offended them. His Majesty held me in his embrace. They confessed it was because of jealousy toward your favor. Of course it wasn't just that. Ever since I became pregnant, Yuhua Palace had been strictly guarded by people His Majesty personally assigned. Yet this bowl of medicine containing red safflower was still able to penetrate layer upon layer of guards to reach my elder sister's hands, then from her hands be offered to me. This proved that in the rear palace, anyone with any status had dipped their hands in, even the crown prince. The crown prince was chosen as successor, not only because he was the legitimate son of the late empress, but also because under his majesty's knee, there was only this one male heir. The child in my womb, though not yet known whether male or female, the crown prince could not tolerate. Therefore he secretly directed Vivian to join forces with the rear palace, giving me a bowl of soup laced with red safflower. They struck too hastily, and not discreetly enough. Surely his majesty had already investigated thoroughly. But what of it after investigating? I had been poisoned. The dragon's hair was also lost. The crown prince's majesty's only son, he cannot touch him, must even protect him. Charlotte, I grant you the title of imperial noble consort. This is the emperor's compensation. I chokingly accepted. The next day I ordered people to brew a pot of red safflower, ladling a full bowl, personally carrying it to the rear hall. Vivian had her hands and feet bound, thrown on the ice, cold stone floor. After a night of terror she had developed a fever, lips muttering deliriously, "I am crown princess, who dares show disrespect to me? Absurd." A bucket of cold water poured down. Vivian finally opened her eyes wide. Xianxia. Vivian looked at me, then rolled her eyes to both sides, seeing palace maids and wet nurses standing in attendance. The depths of her eyes revealed clear terror. You, what do you want to do? I warn you, I am crown princess, you cannot treat me this way. I stepped forward 2 steps, looking down at her from above, lips slightly curved. That bowl of pregnancy medicine you gave me caused me to lose my child. I naturally must return the courtesy to you, my dear elder sister. Vivian's gaze swept over the bowl of soup. Still steaming hot, she staggered backward. You cannot do this. I am the legitimate daughter of the Shen family. I am crown princess. If you touch me, father and mother will not forgive you. Don't forget, your concubine mother is still at the Shen manor. My gaze turned completely cold. I waved my hand in signal. Palace maids and old women surged forward. In just moments, the bowl full of red safflower was forcibly poured down Vivian's throat. She clutched her belly, rolling all over the floor. I lightly covered my nose, coldly turned and left. Toward late afternoon, His Majesty arrived. Seeing that scene, he only coldly transmitted one sentence. Notify the crown prince to come take the person back to the manor. After all, that bowl of medicine was personally offered to me by Vivian's own hand. In the eyes of those who knew the matter, she was originally a criminal. His Majesty keeping her until now was only to help me vent my anger, that's all. I even requested His Majesty issue an imperial decree, ordering the crown prince to never divorce his wife. Of course I wasn't being benevolent. A woman who lost the ability to bear children, yet occupying the position of crown princess, while the crown prince's rear courtyard was full of butterflies and bees, how could she live peacefully? Vivian wanted so badly to become crown princess, then let her be one for life. Otherwise, wouldn't it waste all the years she and the Shen family calculated? The Shen family received the imperial decree, expressing gratitude profusely. Of course they had to be grateful, because Vivian was guilty of plotting to harm the imperial heir, originally a great crime sufficient to annihilate the entire clan. Now the whole family remained intact, all thanks to me. Imperial noble consort is also a person of the Shen family. As for Vivian, she merely was forced to drink a bowl of red safflower. At least she kept her life. After that great upheaval, the entire rear palace became silent as death. Each day I dined and read books with His Majesty. When inspired I would dance a tune. Life was extremely leisurely. Mother had the imperial mandate, so I could summon her into the palace to visit me. Ever since the little one was gone, His Majesty became even more tolerant toward me. Previously he only regarded me as a pleasing plaything, now he had several more parts of genuine feeling. The very day Mother entered the palace, I rose very early, donning the robes I had selected the night before, ordering palace servants to lay out a table full of delicacies from land and sea, waiting for her arrival. Upon seeing Mother I couldn't restrain myself, rushing into her arms. Don't cry, your ladyship hasn't fully recovered yet. Mother pulled me to sit down, her eyes filled with gentleness and tolerance. I obediently let her wipe my face, then held chopsticks picking food for her. These are all dishes I had the imperial kitchen prepare, each one is the chef's absolute specialty. Mother must try them. Mother quietly listened, picking a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs, placing it in my bowl. Looking at that piece of ribs, my eyes suddenly stung. Back at the Shen Manor, I only got to eat this dish during New Year's. Normally I could only watch Vivian eating heartily with wide eyes. Only mother knew I loved eating this dish. I took a deep breath, not letting myself sink into memories anymore. Everything has passed. From now on, I will definitely let mother and I live in unmatched wealth and honor. From then on, each month I summoned mother into the palace to gather. I even arranged several palace maids skilled in martial arts beside mother, both to serve and secretly protect. At that time Vivian was living increasingly difficult days piled up in the crown prince's manor. A newly pregnant consortcy with quite high status, seeing her bearing the name crown princess but without children or favor, developed ill feelings, daily finding excuses to make things difficult. The crown prince caught between the two, often leaned toward the pregnant consortcy, making Vivian's life increasingly miserable. No power, no favor, children, pitiful, truly pitiful. One day Lady Margaret requested an audience. I leisurely reclined on soft cushions, sipping tea, glancing at her. "Why have you come here?" As expected, she came to plead for Vivian, hoping this palace as an imperial noble consort could shelter her. "This palace can help her, but it depends on how much you, Lady Margaret, can do." Lady Margaret raised her head, expression calm, clearly already prepared mentally to face difficulties. Looking at that hypocritical appearance as if about to sacrifice herself righteously, this palace only felt nauseous. I waved my hand pointing outside. "Then please, Lady Margaret, go kneel out there. When this palace is satisfied, we'll continue discussing." Anger rose in Lady Margaret's eyes. I heavily set the teacup on the table. That year Lady Margaret made my mother kneel in the snow all night. Now the spring festival is warm, don't say you cannot endure. Lady Margaret closed her eyes, slowly stood up, walked outside and knelt down. I didn't bother paying attention, turning to pull mother to admire the newly tailored robes. Near noon, Lady Margaret began trembling. His Majesty as usual came to dine with this palace, walking past her without even a glance. Lady Margaret acted pitifully, finally truly became miserable, to the point her arm fell striking the ground. "His Majesty comes to the palace daily, he has met mother several times. The two of you can sit and chat a bit." After finishing the noon meal, His Majesty went to handle state affairs. Not until sunset did I order Madame Margaret brought inside. Kneeling an entire day, she was extremely exhausted, appearance disheveled beyond endurance. She glared at me, almost grinding her teeth. "This subject has obeyed the command to kneel, please your ladyship keep your word." I raised an eyebrow. "When did this palace say that if you kneel I would shelter Vivian?" She furiously stood up, pointing at me. "You." I languidly leaned against soft cushions, smiling lightly. "If you want me to help her, fine. Take one of Edward Shen's legs in exchange." Lady Margaret, as if not believing her own ears, "Yunfeng is a military officer. If he loses a leg, how can he practice martial arts and wield a sword? Then there's no solution." I lightly nodded to the palace servants. "It's late. If mother stays longer, I worry. You personally escort my mother back to the manor." Recently the rear courtyard of the Crown Prince's manor has been in constant turmoil. The Crown Princess pushed a 3-month pregnant consortcy into the lake. Though the person was rescued, the unborn child could not be saved. The Crown Princess was confined. Power to manage the rear courtyard fell into that consortcy's hands. Lady Margaret made a trip to the Crown Prince's manor, then rushed straight into the palace to find me. "I agree to your condition. I beg you to save Yunwen. That lowly person Songju confines her daily, forces her to drink medicine, gives her neither food nor medical treatment, clearly intending to torment her to death. My daughter is about to lose her life. Using my son's leg to exchange for my daughter's life. If my son cannot be a military officer, so what? With the Shen family's support, he can also live wealthy and honored his whole life." Lady Margaret said it with difficulty but also made up her mind. I looked at her anguished face, in my heart feeling only extreme satisfaction. Though this Lady Margaret of mine has a vicious heart, she has one fatal weakness, which is maternal love. To deal with her, the pain cannot fall on herself but must fall on the two children she loves most. Look, now hasn't she already lived more miserably than death? She made my mother kneel until one leg was crippled, then her son repays with one leg, very fair. As for Vivian, dying might be liberation, but surviving is the true suffering. At the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, I sat high on the platform with His Majesty, listening to the wives of meritorious officials and great ministers praising and flattering. On the right were the Crown Prince and Crown Princess. Vivian wore splendid robes, but her body was emaciated, as if just a light breeze would be enough to blow her away. Amidst raised wine cups and bustling song and dance, suddenly the dancing performers and musicians simultaneously jumped up, drawing swords rushing straight toward His Majesty. His Majesty remained motionless. The assassins hadn't yet approached before being suppressed and captured by the guards. The incident shattered the banquet atmosphere in an instant. The assassins were escorted out. Officials looked at each other, lightly nodded, then continued raising cups. The banquet quickly became lively again as if nothing had happened. The head eunuch beside His Majesty bowed his head, stepping forward, voice low, reporting about the assassins. But right at that moment, the real crisis occurred. The head eunuch suddenly drew a short blade from his sleeve, one hand gripping His Majesty tightly, the other hand raising the blade high, stabbing down fiercely. Everything happened in a flash. His Majesty sat dazed, not yet reacting. The dagger blade was already near his chest. Without any hesitation, I immediately rushed forward, using my body to knock down the head eunuch. I wasn't doing it to save His Majesty, but for myself. Right now all my support rests with His Majesty. He cannot die. Charlotte. His Majesty staggered to his feet, stumbling to my side. Though the head eunuch's strike wasn't heavy, he had lost the initiative, quickly subdued by the Imperial Guards and Shadow Guards. The blade pierced through my shoulder, only an inch from my heart. The pain made my vision go dark. Looking into His Majesty's eyes filled with both shock and sorrow, I even had the mood to secretly think, I fear from now on, His Majesty's 2 parts genuine feeling will become 6 parts. I was unconscious for 2 days. When I awoke I saw Mother with reddened eyes standing by the bed. Just seeing me open my eyes, she immediately stood up. Your ladyship has awakened. Quickly summon the Imperial Physician. The Imperial Physician arrived immediately. His Majesty also followed closely behind. Upon seeing His Majesty, Mother immediately stepped aside, quietly wiping tears, nearly weeping with joy. His Majesty intently watched the Imperial Physician take my pulse. Hearing the injury wasn't severe, only needing careful recuperation to fully recover, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. After drinking medicine, people in the room withdrew, leaving only me and His Majesty. He held my hand, his gaze no longer casual, but filled with cherishing. Charlotte, why were you so foolish? The Imperial Physician said that blade was only an inch from your heart. I leaned into his embrace, genuinely answering, because this concubine did not want your Majesty to be harmed. His Majesty's arms tightened, holding me closer. After a long while, he softly said, Charlotte, will you give me a prince? I nodded. That is also what I wish. That assassination attempt, the mastermind was the Crown Prince. Among the accomplices were General Shen, Prime Minister Song, along with relatives and various women in the Crown Prince's rear courtyard. Nearly half the court's important ministers participated. The dancers and musicians were just bait. The head eunuch was the key. The wine His Majesty drank that day had also been laced with bone, softening powder, causing his strength to dissipate. A chess game laid without a single flaw. If that day I hadn't risked my life to stop it, the throne would likely have changed hands. Regrettably, the plan failed at the last moment. I too was fortunate to survive. The Crown Prince was confined in his manor. The great ministers who participated in the assassination were all subjected to extermination of 3 generations. The court lost half its pillars, but from that a series of young new officials were promoted. One night, His Majesty held me while reading, eyes coldly filled with mockery. They thought without them the court would fall into chaos. Ridiculous. This empire is mine. What I lack least is talented people. Daring to rebel must pay the price. Rebel officials, some were executed, others demoted. Lady Margaret and the lame eldest brother were exiled. Father, the ringleader of the rebellion, was executed along with Prime Minister Song. On the day Lady Margaret and eldest brother departed, I personally saw them off. Outside the city gate, she supported her lame son, eyes full of venomous resentment glaring at me. I should not have let you live. From the moment that lowly woman gave birth to you, I should have made mother and daughter die together. I was supported by palace maids, standing under the parasol held by eunuchs, smiling faintly from afar. Pity, I lived and grew up. Now the entire house of Shen, including you, have all lost in my hands. In the cold, desolate land Lady Margaret must also serve others. I fear in this lifetime we shall never meet again. Go safely on your journey. That evening's sunset was truly beautiful. I led palace servants to stop by Mother's separate residence, prepared some more practical items, then leisurely returned to the palace. Half a year later I again received joyful news of pregnancy. The Imperial Physician said both I and the unborn child were healthy. His Majesty joyfully waved his hand, granting me the title of Empress Noble Consort, status equivalent to Empress. During the pregnancy period, the Crown Prince secretly struck many times, but each time was caught red-handed by his father. Father and son had nearly reached the point of deep-seated great hatred. When I was 8 months pregnant, the imperial physician took my pulse saying it was a prince. His Majesty immediately ordered people to slowly poison the Crown Prince's food. Time passed in a flash, 8 years already. His Majesty remained healthy, each day rising early to read books with the little prince, in the afternoon riding horses and practicing martial arts, living very peacefully. As for the deposed Crown Prince, deposed for 3 years, granted the title Prince Rong, now only a dying land flame, he specifically summoned me, wanting to meet one last time. In the small courtyard desolate and bleak, only one old eunuch remained to serve. Who would think this place was once the residence of a crown prince whose power tilted heaven? Prince Rong lay on the bed. I held the palace maid's hand, standing not far from the bed. You came today. Since I entered the palace until now, this is the first time we can calmly face each other, talk like normal people. Back then, many thanks for saving my life. My expression didn't change at all. After all, I'm not Vivian, not foolish enough to think a jade pendant alone would be enough to deceive the crown prince. When I saved him, though I covered my face with a veil, my figure and voice didn't change. How could he not recognize me? The reason he identified my savior as Vivian was simply because he wanted to borrow the Shen family's power. If the savior was me, then just a life-saving benefactor. But if it was Vivian, then she was the legitimate daughter of General Shen, with solid backing. Prince Rong looked at me calmly without ripples, only smiled faintly. He looked up at the ceiling, gaze distant. Since birth, I no longer had an empress mother. At age 1 I was established as crown prince. From childhood to adulthood, everyone told me that growing up I would definitely become emperor, and I believed it too. Never expected the one who personally destroyed me was actually Father Emperor. I wasn't interested in hearing him lament, so asked directly, what exactly do you want to say by summoning me here? Prince Rong was slightly stunned, lips curving into a bitter smile. That's right, you once saved me, yet I repaid kindness with enmity. Clearly knowing full well your elder sister was an impostor, I still went along with it, pushing you into the deep palace. I originally planned to marry your elder sister as principal wife, then take you as concubine. Who knew they would send you straight into the palace? I took a deep breath, turned and walked outside. Just as I reached the door, behind me came 2 faint words, I'm sorry. I didn't stop, treating it as wind passing by my ear. Just consider that day I saved the wrong dog. 3 days later, Prince Rong died of serious illness. The crown princess followed him in death and burial. 5 more years passed. His Majesty's dragon body truly could no longer hold on. Before the sickbed, he stroked the young prince's head, gave a few loving instructions, then let the child withdraw. In life's final moment, he held my hand tightly, smiled, then closed his eyes, peacefully departing the mortal world. The late emperor passed, the new emperor ascended the throne. I was honored with the title Empress Dowager. The first few years, I stayed by my son's side, then led mother to move to the imperial villa outside the palace. After mother passed away, I refused invitations to return to the palace to enjoy time with grandchildren. I led attendants leaving the capital, wandering mountains and waters everywhere. Because mother once said, mother's only wish is for you to live a joyful life. This story reveals that revenge, while satisfying momentarily, cannot heal the wounds of the past. Charlotte's journey from victim to Empress Dowager shows that true victory lies not in destroying enemies, but in protecting loved ones and finding peace. She orchestrated elaborate vengeance against those who wronged her, yet only found genuine happiness when she honored her mother's simple wish to live joyfully. Power and retribution are hollow achievements. Authentic fulfillment comes from love, freedom, and choosing to release bitterness. Ultimately, living well, not revenge, is the greatest triumph over those who hurt us. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.